So I've got part one of the itinerary just says Tosh Tuchel. That's all it says.
Tosh Tuchel. Are you going to get right into it?
Tommy,
please?
a bit of Tommy Tuchel. Is that where we're going first?
I was really surprised at a lot of the backlash around him. So I thought a lot of people would be really welcoming to the idea of having him. And then I think 90% of England fans would have liked the idea of him coming in. But then all of a sudden English media, as soon as it's announced, is just like trouncing the idea. It's just ludicrous.
I mean, I think something that was shared on Twitter now, that we've all seen now, because I think Luke shared it in our chat as well, was that we spent like 2-3 days going, Pep might be an actual option.
Yeah.
Pep is the one. He is the New England manager, pretty much, was like all the news for like a couple of days. So to go from that to Mr. Tuchel, it's a bit different, isn't it?
I think the biggest thing for me is that, like, reacting to it. Obviously, I'm not English. I'm not an England fan at all. But I'm always like I am with Manchester United. I'm fascinated with the drama of it. It's like a novel. It's like Married at First Sight or something for me. So
you compared Manchester United.
It's brilliant.
The
it's
England national
just
team.
Great. Yeah.
To trash TV.
I mean, it's great just watching you guys just chat, and it's just. We got Craig Bellamy. There's like the differences there. But what was I going to say? I forgot my point now.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, like always.
I mean, he is probably the highest quality manager we could actually get.
Yeah.
So from a very like mild standpoint, I don't think we could do better than him as a tournament winning manager.
Would you have preferred if the US didn't get Poch over Tuchel?
That's a really good question. Poch really didn't do anything wrong for us. But then again, neither did Tuchel. So I'm looking at it from a Chelsea lens where they've both managed me, and I've enjoyed them both as managers. I have higher highs with Tuchel.
Yeah, of course.
So I would probably say him.
The thing is,
but that's pretty close, I think.
That was the point I was going to make as well. Is that Tuchel?
But also, Poch hasn't won anything, whereas Tuchel actually has, and this whole project is let's actually push this over the line, baby.
I think this information's coming to Joe's brain right now.
Yeah.
Like...
I haven't thought about this. It's such a good question.
My point was that Tuchel is a lot more of an aggressive man manager. I think he's a very if you do wrong, it's like Ange, isn't it? It's like. If you put a foot wrong, or if you step out of your, the kind of zone, so to speak, of where you're told to be, you're going to know it. And I think there's always been criticism about English player culture, especially
we haven't had that in years.
No, but seriously, around the bigger teams like, say, Marcus Rashford, Mason Mount, all of these, Jadon Sancho, they have the...
Well, United, weird.
Yeah,
hang on.
Well, no, Sterling as well. They have the reputation
they've had
of being.
What, Rab?
They have the reputation.
Of?
Luke Shaw, players like that.
United.
I don't know where you're going with
all bad eggs. Harry Maguire.
Bad eggs. Yeah. Well, no.
Kobe Mainu. Jeez.
No, maybe not Harry Maguire. Well, yeah, maybe Harry Maguire.
You leave Harry Maguire. You leave Sir Harry alone, okay?
But they have the reputation of having kind of these negative personalities and, putting their managers out to dry, I guess.
I think the main backlash is just that it just shines a light on how terrible English coaches actually are and how few options we truly had.
Well, yeah.
As long as Eddie Howe said no to us, basically, I don't think there's a real genuine option.
I no longer respect Rabbi's football opinion.
I think the one thing I did agree with the negative connotation of having Tuchel is what Gary Neville actually said today, which is that it was like a slap in the face to the English management or coaching program, which I totally get.
But the program's at fault, and I think we just have to swallow that. I think it's not like the program's the reason why English managers aren't as good as the managers we could pick from.
Yeah.
The biggest problem we have is the whole social media side of being an England manager. We had Gareth Southgate come from the under-21s. He wasn't there for very long, and he's gone through that system of kind of going through all those years. We were never going to do it again with Lee Carsley, despite him playing
not at all.
Proactive football that he tried and failed. And
I mean, we had one draw in a friendly, and already people were pitchforks. So,
Tuchel is a very good appointment for England. He's pragmatic, which is again something a lot of England fans won't like, but they'll make do if he's able to win with it in his way, in his terms. He's a little bit more aggressive on the counter press and things like that because he has that kind of German teachings or whatever it is. But he's, in my opinion, more of a tournament manager. Football manager anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Champions League the best part about his career. Yeah.
The Champions League run for PSG is something that's often overlooked. You know, he only lost in the final.
Yeah.
The league titles he's won generally kind of were expected anyway, other than the Bayern one, which he kind of messed up. But we brushed it.
I think one thing that's key as well, a lot of his teams where he's adopted players that are already being established by other managers. I think is one thing that was really interesting that I saw.
Are you trying to say Frank Lampard's the one who won the Champions League?
That's exactly what I'm about to say. So Frank Lampard bought most of the players that they actually won the Champions League with. But
he didn't buy anyone. We couldn't buy anyone.
Yeah, he couldn't buy anyone.
So your argument falls down there.
No, he was the one who bought, kind of
Kai Havertz.
Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, that kind of, and then obviously started playing Mason Mount a lot more. So I think he's got the reputation of adopting players, which is obviously very good for international football. But
squeezing the most out of the crop you've got is a good quality to have. Yeah,
Callum Hudson-Odoi.
I would rather
he's back.
I would rather him than Brendan Rodgers, but that's fine. You can have
Brendan. Imagine that the PR storm after Brendan would be absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. I felt like a bit of a mug buying a new Celtic jumper after a 7-win trouncing.
Right, let's turn our attention to the main topics of the day then. Welcome back everyone to Spill the TCG. It's myself, Joe, with Alex and Rab once again to talk the world of Pokemon. There's been a regional to go over and there's also a new set on the horizon, so we're going to be touching on that later on as well. But first of all, let's catch up. We've been away for a couple of weeks. What have we been up to? I know, Rab, you've been playing some Poke as well as some Lorcana as well. So how's your last couple of weekends gone?
Right. I'm just going to set my timer and walk off for 10 minutes. I'll be back.
Yeah, you may as well. I'm going to go through every matchup in
Please.
very long detail.
That's what they expect at this point.
Played Lorcana last weekend.
What was your opening hand?
Really enjoyed it. Diablo. We're talking Diablo. Talking at least 2 Urslave, which I mulliganed.
And then I mulliganed one of those.
No, had a really good time. I'll keep it short and sweet. I won, so there's that. But
Say no more.
I played the best deck in format, arguably, and it was kind of control discard. For those of you who don't know Lorcana, it's a kind of discard hand control deck, which I really quite enjoy playing. Learned it over a week on YouTube, and then just went through it. But I won't take too much credit of it. It's by far the best deck in format, and I borrowed the entire deck, so that was that. But then played a challenge yesterday actually, which I did terribly in. I had some horrific matchup. I played Mimikyu, Cornerstone, Ogerpon, which I said after the tournament to both of you, it's quite possibly the worst deck I've ever played.
Bro, you played that in like 6 different formats. You played the same deck with different names of Pokemon before.
This is the attacking one. This isn't like kind of...
Yeah, fine. It's the same deck. You win because of the 2 abilities that say
it's really
no.
Bad. Why not just play 4 Snorlax in it and just... Anyway, I came up with some very funny matchups. So I played Dragapult, which was fine. But then I played Frostlass, Greninja, Conkeldurr, sorry, and then there was another funny one as well, which I think I've forgotten about. But yeah, I mean, it was a terrible night, but it was fine though. I mean, most things happened.
It was a terrible night.
Apparently, you played Hydrapple.
Oh
yeah, that's right. That's it.
You played against Terry Cruz's deck.
Yeah, and then the rest.
Can you imagine taking a Terry Crews list and taking it to a challenge?
And then the rest of my time it was just looking after Harriet. Really, she's
Is she? What's her expected date? Has it been
Sunday?
Yet? It's this Sunday. Oh my god!
She's really pregnant right now. She's ready to give birth.
How about yourself? You phantom pregnanting as well?
I mean, I am tired, but it hasn't hit me yet, which I think is quite funny because I'm just.
Are you off work yet?
Normal. So
when do you go off
I've got
work?
like my proposed parental leave starting Monday, obviously, because the due date's on Sunday. But I'm allowed to take it whenever
you start when the baby arrives.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever she
which is very nice of your company, to be fair, because I think a lot of places just like you set a date. That's the date.
Yeah.
That's the date. Yeah. I mean, I don't know actually.
Cool.
I should probably check. I'm pretty sure.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah. What, have you set your out of office? No. I'm here, so fine.
So pay me.
Pay me, please. I'm begging.
Alex, what about you?
Yeah, nothing else.
Oh, sorry. Any more rab on that?
No.
Oh my god, it was short.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
We're all we're all thinking about you both, and obviously we'll get updates from you as and when, and we'll tweet it out from SpilltheTeaCG. Yeah. So
the worrying thing is we're going to get like a minute update.
So you guys will all know. You'll all know about it.
It's
so
like a BBC News article. Like
live.
No, the live reporting.
Harriet yelled at me 6:02.
You arrived at 6.
The funny thing is we've done this like hypnobirth like program, and it's kind of like this, new age kind of, just breathe and like, kind of this
Darren
is
Brown
massage.
method.
This is what your muscles do, kind of thing. And it's
Have
good.
you been relaxing a bit too much?
That would make me so unbelievably tense.
In the videos, the instructor, she's like, right, this is for your birth partners. Remember to be firm with the mother, and remember to say everything will be all right. And I'm looking at Harriet. I'm like, it's me talking to you, mind. Imagine me going like, right, just calm down. Just calm down. Everything's good. Just breathe. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'll let you know how effective the hypnobirthing is for us.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I reckon you're going to be the replacement for like laughing gas, aren't you? She's not going to need it. Like, don't need the epidural. I've got Ben giving me everything I need here.
Ben's playlist as well. I can imagine you've got one ready to go.
So,
for himself.
I wanted we wanted like Spirited Away and like all the kind of melancholy music. But I when we were listening to it in the car, we forgot that it gets quite hype in some moments.
Yeah.
Like the scene, if none of you have seen it, there's a scene where they're driving through like just a town, and it's like, very pretty. And then all of a sudden the dad goes off road and goes like, oh, but yeah. We haven't chosen Spirited Away. So.
That's the first song.
Yeah. That's the first song, yeah.
and you've already had to go off, of course. What about you, Alex? Anything last couple of weeks?
Nothing really Pokemon or card games related, to be honest. I obviously, like yourself, received the Illustrals package.
Have you opened any yet?
I've started looking into it, just because I want to start looking into that Kickstarter, which looks really cool as well. We're always big fans of actual, software that actually works. Sorry, guys. But
my tweet was very pointed in a direction as well, without saying the words. You can read between the lines of what I'm trying to say there.
Over there.
But yeah, I think we're all excited, because I think it's always the biggest thing for me learning like a card game like Lorcana, going to that event without any sort of practice, is not having like an actual like proper simulator or actual like client that allows me to play the games. Yeah. So it's impressive that they've been able to connect with the Pixelborn. I think
it's actually a massive coup,
right?
It's insane,
which is really, really cool. So yeah, it means it's something that I'm more intrigued and more interested in looking into. And of course, it's because we got the package as well, and I've been trying to champion this idea of like a draft between us for some time, since as soon as we heard that we might be getting something. That's what I at least need to know how to play like you guys. I've just about watched a couple of the introduction videos. But yeah, back to Poke or anything else, nothing of the ilk. A bit of practice, I guess. Were you watching much of the stream, or are you just quickly jumping ahead to Lille? Are you thinking about playing the same deck or diverting to anything else based on what we've just seen? I mean, personally, from what I've been testing, I'm quite happy with Palkia as a deck.
You cut out.
It's just now finding the right.
Oh, and it was just you cut out for me. I don't know why, but carry on.
Did I cut out?
Try again.
I just interrupted you. Go on, carry on.
Cheers, mate. I've obviously played Palkia in Dortmund. I'm likely to play it again. I'm just trying to find the right 60 and the right cards to shift for the meta, I guess, because things have changed, and I'm sure we'll touch on that shortly as well, because that was a big tournament that happened just this past weekend. But yeah, just kind of relaxing and trying to chill. Really, I played some football, injured myself immediately, so I've had another week off of not doing much, which is great. It was probably like one of the most painful injuries I've had, which is kind of annoying.
It was a challenge, or was it just you?
Nah, of course not.
Turning the wrong
mate.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, pivoting, foot becoming
Don't
quite
get me
loose.
started.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Great.
It's generally fine. It's just a bit annoying. But that's it. What about yourself, Joe? Come on, give us some.
Electorals has been a thing that's been occupying my brain space for the last couple of weeks. I've done some openings. Obviously, did that video on it, which I think is a nice like introductory dip your toe in. This is what the game is, and it's a good time to look at the game. In fairness, because that Kickstarter's happening, and it's already been backed, so there actually will be this online client coming, which is. I mean, especially for a game that has no IP backing it, you have to get eyes on the game and get people playing. So you have to survive. You absolutely need to have a client like that. So that's a big step in the right direction for that game. And I'm going to follow it like loosely until I can start playing the beta, which will be interesting. And then I had Jack over last weekend to play some Surging Spark stuff. So we proxied up some of the new decks, which we'll be talking about later on today. And I can give you my sort of first impressions on those sorts of testing games that we had. And I've also just been framing up my graded cards, my collection. I was actually there getting the last ones done today, and I now need to just like measure it all up and figure out where it's going, because there's a lot. It's all the WotC sets, and that's a lot of stuff, and I had to get custom frames, and it's been this whole ordeal.
Please tell me you've just filled Tim's room's walls just with you.
There's nowhere else to put it, mate. There's no other real estate. So.
I was about to say, how many frames have you got? Like how many PSAs are you actually framing?
Well, it's all the hollows from base all the way up to Skyridge. So it's all the regular sets, the gym sets, the Neo sets, and the e-reader sets. So how many is that? That's like 12, 13 different frames, and like Skyridge itself is like 40 cards. So that's a big custom frame from head to toe, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's either going to be my concern. So it's UV coated panes to try and make it so the cards don't lose any of their. As possible. Yeah, exactly. But I'm still a little bit concerned. So I'm either going to look at getting like a coating that I can put on them, but also just generally look for places where there's no natural sunlight. So it could just be like my staircase. I could have loads of them because it's like quite tall. But also I want to be able to still see a lot of the cards like face to face. I was
going to say, do you have like a cupboard that you're just going to have like wrap the walls
like
in?
Bats.
So I was also thinking like that, even though I've got them in frames, actually not put them up on a wall, but have like a cabinet almost that I can just like pull frame by frame out.
Every so often, just open and go,
Yeah.
Like John Wick at the Armory.
Literally, that would be my dream solution, to be honest with you. So that's been an ordeal and stressful trying to get all these customs done. But now I need to figure out just what to do with them. But I've enjoyed that and enjoyed like reconnecting with the collection because I don't always get to look at it and all that sort of stuff. And I'm so unbelievably close to completing now. I think I'm like 6 cards away.
So incredible.
So I am, really wanting to close that out. But it's patient. You got to be patient. I've been collecting for like 14 years. And just because I want it to be finished doesn't mean it will be. Because especially in the UK.
Well, when's you missing now?
I can tell you exactly what I'm missing because maybe, you never know, a viewer could help out.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to my collection. So for
of our 50 that listen to
there's one card that I need from Neo Revelation, which is the Blissey, first edition Blissey, either in 9 or 10
you
condition.
Should have said I got that.
Yeah. For Neo Destiny, I'm missing Light Arcanine first edition, Shining Kabutops first edition, Shining Steelix first edition, and Shining Tyranitar first edition.
So, Shining the
3 of the Shinings.
Yeah.
I have them all in lower condition or non-first edition, but I want to have the complete set. And then for Skyridge, I need Alakazam, Machamp, and Politoed, and I also need Ditto from Fire Red Leaf Green, which isn't going to be in a frame, but that's another set that I just want to have completed.
Pretty sure Joe said there was going to be 6. He's reeled off about 15 cards.
How many is that?
Like there.
It's actually 8. It's 8 plus that Ditto.
Actually, this is a good plug. I went to a couple of weeks ago now, the Cardiff Card Show. It was really good. There's one in a couple of months now. I think they do like the they kind of tour the country. Like
there's been a few around me as well.
Yeah, there's the London one as well, which is quite a reputable one. But you should go to one of them. They're really good.
I mean, I should honestly go and just get a booth to get rid of all the nonsense extras that I have, to be honest with you. And then just like do a day selling, a day buying, something like that, you know.
Yeah, because they're like 2-day events. They're really good.
Come into your card show soon.
Yeah. I also think I'm going to be... My next project is going to be stripping down my set binders, because you guys know that it's like... It takes up way too much room in my house, and there's only new sets coming out every 3 months, and it's just getting completely unmanageable. So I want to strip those away and just have a Pokédex binder where I'm going to have 3 of each of my favourite artworks of each mon. Nice. And I'm going to go through to at least, I think... I'll at least do black and white sets onwards in terms of the Pokédex numbers. And then I'll start thinking about doing the future sets, because at the moment there are only going to be like 3 artworks to choose from, so I could have like a full binder, but it won't be cards that I necessarily like. But that'll be a whole process in itself. Firstly, just taking out all the cards. I remember it took me like 2 months to put the cards even in the binders in the first place, because it's so much stuff to do. It's literally like 100 binders. Stripping that back is going to be my next project, I think, just to declutter the house. Like, I'm literally living in a warehouse. It's embarrassing the amount of Pokemon stuff that's just strewed in every room of it.
You still have empty packets and boxes. I think that's
going to make a great video one day. I honestly think I could ring the Guinness World Records, and I think I have the largest opened booster pack collection in the world. I would be genuinely shocked if anyone else had a larger opened booster pack collection than me.
I don't know anybody else that keeps them.
Exactly.
I don't know no one else that keeps them.
It's a free win. It's a free dub.
I remember
truly insane.
I remember when we opened a box yours at one point, and you were like, keep the booster pack. I thought you were honestly taking the piss.
For the full context, just if it wasn't clear, I've kept every booster pack that I've ever opened of Pokemon cards. I've been collecting for a long time. So.
And don't forget, ordered in his room in
but you
until I get there.
Until you get there, yeah. Until you get there, and then you swap one pack to the back to the front, and then swap the booster box. Yeah.
Don't, because my brother used to threaten that for absolute years, and it would stress me out. It would really stress me out. Anyway, let's move on to Louisville, the regional that happened, the spooky regional over in the US, the only one that they're having in Stellar Crown. They've obviously been able to react to our tournaments as well as Lima and Joinville. So it's not like it's their only attempt in Stellar Crown, but it's not a brand new fresh meta. They had deck lists to go off of. And I think it's fair to say it was a pretty interesting top 8, even though it's archetypes that we kind of know about. There were some innovations within the deck list themselves, and I think, Rab, you've got the day 1 and 2 breakdown there for everyone.
So I got top 8 now, if you want to put that up.
You got the top 8? Should we go for the top 8 first, or should we go through the meta?
Yeah, I got top 8. Or do you want to do day 1 first?
Let's go through the meta first, right?
Sure, let's do day 1.
Let's do the journey. Show people the journey.
So the most popular deck was Raging Bolt at 14%. Pretty interesting that we've... So I think in Dortmund, what was our most popular deck in Dortmund? Was it Bolt again?
It was Bolt and Charizard.
Bolt and Charizard, but they've so it's dropped, but Bolt is still the most popular deck. Followed by the Turtle, which has shot up all the way to 10%. I don't think that's too surprising with the caliber of players and how well it converted from day 1 to day 2 in our tournaments, even though it didn't have that many great final placements. I don't think that's too surprising. I think it's one of those things where you have to think about the hype cycle for the next event, and players watching Dortmund at that time are starting to choose their deck. So I think seeing the Terrapagos is at that threshold where people are like, right, I can commit 2 weeks to this deck, get competent with it, and make a good build. So that's not too surprising. Dragapult, the deck that won in Dortmund, then at 9.5%. I think a lot of people were adopting the non-Pidgeot build as well, as far as I could tell, the Ryuki winning list. Then we have the ever-present Lugia and Regidrago, both at 8%. And then I think the surprise deck that did squeak onto that day 1 is 7.75% of Palkia Dusknoir. Obviously did have a couple placements, again, in Dortmund, and again by a really strong player in Stefan. But what do you guys think about Palkia Dusknoir? Is it just here to stay now? Is it just going to remain a day 1 threat that we all have to consider with our deck choice now?
I think it's a really powerful archetype, and I think when you've got a player like Stefan who's championed it a lot and gave quite a lot of information out on it, I think there's probably stuff from other regions and other areas and other players as well, who's kind of tested this archetype a little bit. But, you know, Stefan's the one who actually came out and got, was it top 4? Was it Dortmund with it? And had a great run in day 1, right? If I recall correctly as well.
Yep.
But it's just, again, it's one of those decks similar to Turtle. They both kind of like upticked in sort of play, right? Maybe we could just kind of say Dustmar decks, because that's what it really felt like in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Dustmar just unlocks so much. And again, similar with that deck, we know Palkia was able to just be a very powerful archetype going into this kind of format, just because of the way can utilizes your opponent's sort of boards and board states as well. And it's just really, yeah, I mean, there's not enough time to really talk about a deck like that, because there's so many options as well. Similarly, having 2 turns where you're basically winning the game is just a bit crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. And interesting that there's only one Stage 2 deck on the graphic. Charizard finally like dipping down in popularity, although it does do well in this tournament and has a good day 1 to 2 conversion. But Gardevoir also like slipping substantially, although again there were some in day 2. I think the last time we did the pod, I said how volatile of a place it is to be a Stage 2 in this meta. And I think it is mostly down to these Dustmar decks, in addition to just the amount of splashing of Palkia. You know, even like Goldango decks and Noctowl builds of Palkia. There's so much Shuriken going on right now. Obviously, Regidrago as well, sniping. I think I'm fully unconvinced to play a Stage 2 in the format unless it's exactly Dustmar and then attacking with something else, to be honest with you. Which does bring us on to that day 2, where Charizard kind of made it on in place of Dragapult in many ways, and then everything else pretty much just held strong. So no real jump arounds outside of Pult.
Yeah, Regidrago.
What your thoughts on day 2?
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much stayed the same, right? Apart from Regidrago upticking as well as Charizard. Just back onto Palkia. I think the Palkia Terapagos is going to be. I think they're both going to stay in the format. I think it's just purely down to preference. I think Palkia is much more hard hitting, whereas Terapagos is just I don't know. I have the impression that it's just that bit more consistent, because it is of course a basic. Then you attach, you know, just the one energy. So you depend a lot less on sequencing than Palkia. But Palkia, of course, you can kind of just hide behind the energy acceleration and the hard hitting, like I said. But more to the point of the Stage 2s, I think there's just too much threat at the moment. Just looking at that top 6 deck. Deck graphic from day 2. There's so much threatening, so much threat there for the Charizard. I don't know how it gets through. Apart from say Lugia, I suppose you've got Raging Bolt, hard hitting, one shot knockout against.
Charizard's pretty good into Bolt. I think that's one of the only reasons why it's on day 2.
It's okay, but I mean, I still think it can struggle. I don't think it's easy as.
I think it's one of those decks which I think it's something I might have heard elsewhere as well, and we've always kind of championed it. It's one of those decks which will take a victory just out of nowhere on occasion, because it's pretty much still like a comeback deck. I know we've championed different ace specs for the deck itself, but you know, things like Unfair Stamp is still in play. I was fortunate enough to, when I tuned into the stream, I did catch, strangely, a couple of the Charizard decks in action. So I did see, I think, Sebastian Lashmet's game. Was it in top 8, which is really cool.
Was it against the Drago?
Yeah.
That's the most blessed game I've ever seen of anyone ever.
But then also, I think there was, in day 1, was it the Japanese player? Was it Haruki? I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was a really, really cool game. There was a couple of like really interesting spots where and sort of lines of play that was taken. I think it was against Lucas Singh.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah.
Lucas was playing Drago as well, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Again, just like it was just like snatching a victory out of nowhere, and that's kind of what the deck does when it's able to hit hard towards the latter stages of the game. And yeah, when you can kind of force scenarios like that, it's obviously very good into into Raging Bolt, as you kind of mentioned. And if it can kind of just feast on its slightly better matchups, and then maybe just through an Unfair Stamp, be able to play the game and your opponent can't.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, that's more than enough.
Yeah. It's still a checkpoint for people to get through, for sure.
I don't know. If I was to play Zard, I think only one of those matchups I'd feel wholly I mean, maybe I'm not.
Of the day 2 meta?
Yeah, I'm obviously not a Charizard connoisseur, but
I definitely like going first into Terrapagos. I think you're always favoured into Bolt, honestly. I think Regidrago is probably your poorest of the bunch. And then Palkia, again, if they go first, it can really get dicey for you. But I think Lugia's always typically been close.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like with this meta that we're starting to see shape from the format we've got right now is if you can build a deck that actually has a good game plan going second, because a lot of decks right now want to go first, right, to avoid.
It's literally only Bolt that doesn't. Yeah.
If you can I don't know, build or find a deck that works well going second, you're generally in a pretty good spot, I think. And that's without having to like set up multiple basics to evolve up into stage 2s, for example. But yeah, it's a unique place to be in right now, I think.
Interesting. Though, shall we get into the top 8, but also just a discussion on the asymmetrical top cut? I think we saw the worst of it this weekend, where the idea around asymmetrical top cut is that those rounds that we're losing are at least gained back in a way via the asymmetrical system for the players towards the top end of the tournament. But in this instance, we had only 8 players on 10-1-1 records, and therefore, how many players were there? There was 10 players who missed out. 10 players who missed out on 10-2 records, including a number of players who were 6-2 after day 1, therefore went undefeated in day 2 of the competition, and then couldn't make it into top 8 after that fact. Is this just a symptom of it was unfortunate we were at the top band before we gained that extra round that would have been into the tournament? I think it's 2,048 players or something like that is the cutoff for an extra round in day 2. And because there was no natural ties in that final...
right?
Sorry, in day 1, you're right. Is it just a symptom of there was no natural tie, and if there was in any of those games, it would look like a fairly normal asymmetrical cut of maybe like 16 people or something like that? That would have been the dream scenario, I think. Versus just how bad is the fact that this ace... Like, it definitely leaves a sour taste for a lot of people. I think that everyone's been very vocal on that. But is this just the system not working altogether and something that has to be like looked at from a more holistic view? Or is it just a bad beat situation for this exact tournament?
I mean, Alex, do you want to go, or...?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I certainly think... I certainly hope that this is going to be the last time that this happens. I think going into the top 8, a lot of them had natural ties, which had obviously, made this unfortunate situation happen. But, it would have left a very bitter taste in those 10 players' mouths for sure. I mean, just for Alex Szymanski's sake, going 4-0 into day 2, into the unfortunate situation that had happened, that's something that you don't want to see as a spectator, and you don't want to see as somebody who really wants to see this game grow, because I feel like more negative experiences, of course, will off-put players going into it. We've seen a lot of players now say, I'm going to go on hiatus, I'm not going to play moving forward if I can't guarantee cut going X2, and that's perfectly fine. I completely sympathise with that argument. I think for me, a lot of my interest was in just tournament integrity as a whole. I think one thing that I didn't really think about with the new tournament structure is that less rounds equals less Pokemon being played, which isn't fantastic for the player.
You didn't think about that?
No. I didn't think about how it would affect the player experience. I
thought we talked about this. We talked about it on a previous pod.
No. I think it was the player experience in terms of like how I would feel, kind of achievement wise or what have you, but not the actual experience itself. And of course,
I think very quickly.
Go ahead. No. I think the other thing as well. Just go back onto the tournament stuff. I really worry how this will negatively affect tournaments going into the rest of the season. We've heard
in terms of numbers.
Yeah, and of course I've heard on the Uncommon podcast as well how they would like to introduce no ties, which I think is great as well. I would advocate for that as well, a no tie system, because I think one of the negative issues that are going to happen out of this is that players are going to be looking they're going to be looking at their phones for limitless tournament structure, tie records. What do I need to get into Top Cut? Should I ID my round 2? 2 losses is basically a loss. You're going to hear a lot of that language now going forward, which isn't great. I don't think. Go on,
Alex.
Why are you laughing?
Jump in, Alex. Go on.
Sorry.
There's a lot of information. My brain just exploded then.
That's fine. No. I mean, we could touch on your points, but the whole time, I'm pretty sure your cat was doing a poo.
Oh, really?
We can hear it scratching the
Why didn't you tell me?
And then it just fucked off.
Genius.
She has.
Right, good.
So, carry on.
So that was.
You're derailing us, Alex. Do you have anything else to add constructively?
I mean, I'm keen on hearing your view in a moment, Joe, just because this is probably like your main forum in terms of giving out your views, because you don't really do that on OmniPoke. But very quickly, there's a couple of things I don't really like, because I understand the sentiment that Alex Szymanski went undefeated day 2, and getting top 32 is crazy, right? And we can talk about what potential opportunities or fixes that could be done for stuff like that later. I think there's been a big notion on Twitter, or X, what we call it now, about the fact that some people play day 2 and have no hope of making it into top 8.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the correct way of thinking. I don't think that's right. I mean, it's unfortunate the way the tournament's shaped up with the less ties and so on, and the number of players that's happened, and it may be a failing of the system itself, but the chance was still there. It just didn't happen to fall your way. You unfortunately still took 2 losses in day 1.
Yeah,
there have been 8 players which didn't, right? Which is, again, just one of those things that just to kind of counterbalance a little bit, because I think there's been a really negative aspect or view on this point. But touching back on the top 32 placement, that's super awful and shouldn't ever really happen, just from that scenario.
No.
So just, again, it could be another part of a broken system, because we also now carry over resistance. So when you're a player like Alex Szymanski, I don't know his actual run. Maybe I could quickly check, actually. But did he take his losses early? Rounds 4 and 5, sometimes can start to impact your resistance going into day 2 as well. Same with Nathan Ginberg. Yeah, rounds 4 and 6. So it wasn't like they were playing potentially a lot of well-placing players at the latter stages of the tournament when they were already in and getting sort of higher resistance there as well. So there's a lot of factors that come to play here. And I don't know if there's like one true system that will fix everything. There could be something like, just talking about one of the opportunities that might fix something like this, if you place, maybe like dragging down the prizes to sort of, if you meet the top 16 in terms of like points or placement, you get kind of the top 16 prizes or things like that, that could sort of start to address some of these scenarios. But it's not really something in my power to fix or do, really. But yeah, there's a lot of information, and I probably just rambled a bit too much. Now Ben's having a poo in his litter box.
No, I'm gonna.
I'm right there with
the window.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Alex, in that I feel like we have to accept now that we have to look at the tournament as a whole. You can't say I won all my day 2 games. A round is a round. It doesn't matter if it's the final round of the day or the first round of the day. It's just about accumulating the maximum amount of match points in it. It just so happens to be that it's the second day of competition and there's less people in there. Obviously, people will say it's harder to win games in day 2 because people are playing the best decks and playing at a higher standard and whatnot. I understand that, but the way the tournament structure is, there's no bonus points for doing well in the second day of competition. It's all the same. So I think we have to have more of a holistic view. People have been arguing this even in the old system when it's saying don't ID in the final round of day 1 because you're hurting your chance of top 8. And that's a whole different debate. So I think we do just have to have this spectrum of these are the best 8 records, and I agree that this is showcasing it in a pretty poor light just by the number of participants in this tournament and just being close to that kicker but not quite hitting it. So it highlighted it in the worst way possible, and yeah, you do have to feel for players on 10-2 records not making top 32, but that is not making top 16. And I think we all know that it's just a logistical reason as to why it's not record based or point based for these prizings. I think it's something they could easily look at if they have this snapshot of tournaments for the season. Maybe next season it could be something that could be implemented, because we know that we've seen time and time again by our vocal community that things have been addressed and quicker than usual as well, I would say, or what we've started to get used to. So raising these concerns now could easily ring into the thinking for next season. I wouldn't expect anything to change this season. Like Rab was saying, have a no-tie system. I would be stunned, genuinely stunned, if anything happened this season in terms of making holistic changes to the way points are earned in the tournament or the structure itself. I think we're just the far too slow-moving beast for something like that to happen. Even though I don't necessarily disagree that it could help or should happen, I would be amazed if it happened this season.
I think the only way you could mitigate this situation from happening again with the same tournament structure is just by putting in no ties. I think that's the only way you can do it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only way you can do it is just by eliminating ties altogether. Well,
you could set a lower bar for attendance, so then you aren't so close to a threshold.
You could increase the rounds of play. That's
not what I said.
No.
The reason why we've gone to Ace, the reason why we've gone to Ace and Cut is to reduce rounds.
But what were you saying? The kicker.
Reduce the attendance.
Like the threshold of players before an additional round is introduced is currently set. If there's 2,049 players, then we'll have an additional round on day one. You
can either reduce the threshold, or you could we could go back to capped tournaments that then have this amount that is
don't
better.
Raise that, Joe.
I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying it's a solution that could be implemented this season.
No, you can't do that.
You can't.
You can't. I won't.
You can't make me spam click 1 second past the hour to get my tickets. You can't take me back there.
What about best of 2?
All of these things will not happen this season. I guarantee.
No,
I guarantee.
Considering this is the first time that obviously they implemented since Worlds with this ASIM cut, I mean, they're still learning.
That's the thing. Right? They just don't have enough data.
One of the things is a bit of a shame that maybe there could have been more research into the best Swiss structure or sort of tournament structure. Because I had a good conversation with Danilo in Dortmund, and we were talking about it because obviously he's doing some work with some of the other card games at the moment, and one of the things that they were doing is actually thoroughly looking into the best way of tournament structures and also then the invite system to get the number of players that organization wanted for their world championships or whatever. Obviously Pokemon have gone in a particular direction to try and maybe reduce some of the number right now anyway, and we don't know how that might change in the future, but at the moment it's already causing a lot of uproar with a lot of people. But there is data out there because there's other tournaments. You've got Yu-Gi-Oh, which has had multi-thousand people tournaments. You've got all the data from maybe the Japan system, which is definitely. Again not like for like, but again the number of players are there to give you some information there as well. It just needs a bit of massaging at the moment, and it's just not quite there.
And I don't think there is a perfect tournament structure. I think there'll always be losers and winners. I mean, you like Japan, they cater to so many players, and so many players have the opportunities to play. That's great, but their invite structure is much more rigorous than ours.
I mean, even just getting into the big events,
exactly.
I mean, we should count our stars to be honest.
Exactly.
We're actually able to, for the majority of the time, get into tournaments that we want to attend.
I just hope that this is the last time that we see this season.
I don't
know how you can
too often.
I
think this would be like a 1 or 2 off.
I don't think it's likely, and I think this is just an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
But I think there will not be any active changes from TPCI's end, I don't think, this season.
No.
Well, I mean, they could prove me wrong. They could absolutely prove me wrong. I have no insight whatsoever, but that's just my expectation.
There could be enough support tickets raised.
Imagine a pre-NAIC, just like, now you can no longer tie. Da, 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 da. And your entire tournament's on the line. Your entire season's on the line at NAIC.
Everyone's stressing every round.
That would be insane.
Well, people are stressing out now. I mean, people are looking at, how many ties they can get at like round 2. It's people are stressing out now. It's not like.
I mean, you literally have to, because you can only afford one loss, one tie if you want to guarantee your way in.
This is coming back to my argument. A tie is basically a loss, and you can't.
Were you feeding that information to Ross?
In this tournament, a tie is a loss.
Yes.
Unless you only tie once.
That doesn't make sense, Rab. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because one tie got into top 8. Yeah. The second tie. Boy, that second tie is a loss. Confirmed. Louisville confirmed.
Joe's straight for the gentleman's round 2 after he ties.
Please shake my hand. But yeah, the final thing of like, there's nothing to play for day 2 if you can't make top 8. That's obviously nonsense. Like, there's so much prizing, there's so much points still on the line. I think like, obviously everyone's still like playing their heart out. I know there's that like, that exhale, like if you've lost your first round after day 2, you're like, oh right, okay, good, I guess I'm here just to do whatever I can, like you, Alex, for example.
So sad.
It is a hollow feeling.
I just love Pokemon.
Yeah. But you're still playing for lots of generous prizing and cash these days, so I think it's a nonsense to say that like, oh, I can't believe I worked my socks off and got no reward. They obviously got rewarded.
I think it's just also the fact that we're talking about a player. So, well, I guess in this instance, because Alex was very vocal about it, we're talking about an IC winner, someone who's obviously going to be playing for essentially the victory of a tournament, right? He's not playing for the top 32s or top 16s. He's playing for that number 1 spot. So the mentality is a little bit different, maybe a little bit different from his perspective. But then there are countless of other players who, in that spot, should still feel very, happy with their placement based on their performance and going forward, because not just the things that might come with whatever placement they get, but just kind of that recognition of that kind of being that, oh, I finally made it into a top 32 spot, a top 16 spot, so on, is vastly different. So it's a crazy world we live in, that people have these expectations.
Is it time for an ASIM top 16 and an ASIM top 32 so you can get the prizing?
You can do that.
Yeah, I mean,
for more full standings.
Go back to how like Worlds in previous, like many years ago, had it, right. They had a top 32 cut. I think or how like VG have always had it for quite some time previously as well. And just go into a top 32 cut, and then it's just single elim brackets at that point.
I mean, then again, it still comes to my point that you'll always have losers and winners, right? From the tournament structure situation.
Yeah, it's never gonna appease the whole.
Yeah, you'll always have losers and winners, and I'm not saying Alex and Nathan are
you can call them losers. Wrong. In this exact case,
I mean, I'm not saying pick on them, but the others also only got top 16.
They're not wrong in their opinion. They're completely correct, and they have the right to be upset with.
I think it's just the fact that you're not able to keep playing to like actually fix your place, right?
And
we're all used to having that extra round. To then whatever happens, and it's the cards that decided all of it, and that's all we want at the end of the day. We want the cards to decide every placement.
I think Joe's point. I think Joe's point on just thinking of the tournament as a whole now, because Resistant carries over, you're effectively just playing in day 1 to continue playing more rounds for day 2 as part of the same tournament, rather than I'm playing day 1, I'm playing a day 2 tournament, and I think that's probably just the best mindset to go into now.
I think also, like we know, the goalpost shifts. You can lose round 1 and you're like, well, I know I'm not making top 8, but it's like, well, I think the point, this is a cutthroat competition with this many people these days. It's simply that. It's not your week.
The point of a reduced amount of rounds as well, I think it brings on the argument around tournament integrity as well. I think. Why? I know that
you love that sentence.
Why do you love? It's such a buzzword for you.
Said it? Integrity. Or tournament. No.
I think
the less rounds in a game where you have high amounts of variability in matchups.
Variance would have been fine there, Rab.
Variance or variability.
You're adding to your word count.
Did I say variability?
His letter count.
I hope it's a word.
Scramfarious.
Scramfarious. There's Q in that. I think 15 points. No, I think it feels bad. Now coming up against obviously two bad matchups, it essentially ruins your tournament if you want to make a top 8, of course. But I think
this is coming from a Snorlax player, obviously.
In a game where you do have high amounts of variance, getting to top 8 now is monumental.
I mean, that's always been Pokemon. I mean, it's just more.
I know it's
more exaggerated because there's less rounds, obviously.
Yes,
but you can also pick a deck that has more volatile or less volatile. Like, it just adds to your choice before the tournament. We're working with the same information.
I don't disagree with you. It's always been the story with Pokemon, but with less rounds now, I think just.
Less rounds bad is what you're saying.
It's further dissatisfaction, I think.
You're taking the nuanced less Pokemon bad approach.
Less Pokemon is bad on.
I'm glad you've come to this conclusion.
I've never seen him so heated, Joe. Look at him.
I'm glad you've come to this conclusion. It's the obvious conclusion that everyone had immediately when they saw this system. But I'm glad you're there now. Really happy for you. Should we talk about the top 8 itself?
No, I'm going away now.
And that's final.
Yeah, I've got top 8 now.
He's done.
Caleb got his 4th, at least modern era, regional dub.
I can have a look.
With Raging Bolt. I say modern era because it could have been in the earlier like pre-Limitless, you know. Limitless says 4, Rab. I'll tell you that. That's why I've said modern era. But yeah,
it's 5 if you consider the special event.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I said regional.
Next.
That's why my sentence said regional.
Next.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, he played a really interesting Bolt. I think the list was from Grant. He ran the same list, or at least a very similar list, and it was heavily leaning into those Bravery Charms, 3 copies of them in the 60. Buffing up your guys. I think there's some good nuanced plays in terms of protecting yourself from Briar by swinging that onto Greninja, so your opponent can't 4-prize turn you, by popping Dusknoir on Greninja for 1, then Briaring for 3, when this deck is always taking 2-prize turns, obviously, with Bellowing Thunders in the best case scenario, so that's a big one. But also buffing up the big boys themselves can also play around Pulse really nicely. They're also playing 3 carts, so they have lots of play around Bolt, and even Regidrago trying to make spread win conditions. So I think that's a big deal, and also just generally hit point buff just isn't bad, I suppose. They've been in and out of the deck before, but seeing 3 and even 4 copies from Xander Pero, for example, is a real statement of how big they thought it was for this tournament. Also, there's no Iono at all in this list. It's an all-gas 60. I really like the 4 energy retrieval. I think that's even though it's like such a tiny change, I think that's actually the best, just like, why weren't we doing this before upgrade? When you're already playing 4 Vessel and 6 energy, not 6, 11 energy, you already have so many cards that access your energy in the first place that just having the extra fuel is just like a no-brainer. I don't know why we weren't doing that before, to be honest. And yeah, the cheeky Slitherwing for some fighting coverage into obviously Turtle, which is popping up, but also Fez.
Instead of Sandy Shocks, right?
Yeah, normally Shocks.
It's normally Sandy Shocks.
Yeah, I mean, Shocks sucks, to be honest. It's just there for Mimikyu, and it's just discarded like all the freaking time. It doesn't even knock out half the things because of resistance. So like, it can knock out Charmander, and it can knock out like Dreepy, and that's about it. And even then it feels bad because these decks obviously just counter catch you anyway, and it doesn't actually matter. Sure. But Slitherwing actually has a function, I think, by being like, okay, it's mid-game, and I've gone into your Fez, and now you have to like have saved a counter catcher that you may have already spent because of these Bravery Charms in the opening stages anyway, or you're having to choose between Boss and Iono, and then I get to keep a hand. So I think that's like a really big function of Slither now. But yeah, I think this is decent for Bolt going forward. Obviously, like, tool removals in the down low, like not many of the stage 2s are fitting the vacuum so much. Even like Terrapagos wasn't playing vacuum, so those could start coming back into the deck list. We've seen Jamming Tower in the V-Star decks, the Lugias and the Dragos before, so they're once again going to be on high alert. So definitely a case of like picking the right tournament to cash in on this tool, and boy did they. But now it may not be as good, but still probably good enough to play like 1 or 2. I would probably be conservative and still play like 2 copies in my deck, but yeah, very good innovation for this weekend, I think, from a high contingent, like a really strong contingent of players, which is always a thing that's thrown at Bolt, is that like it never has the backing of the top player base. And when a lot of the very good players do, you can see that it can get not just placements, but ultimately walk away with a win. And I believe, I was looking at Limitless, apart from the Champions League, the Champions League, we've had a Bolt win, but this is the first Western win for Raging Bolt, which is crazy for a deck that's been out for like a good few months now and basically always jammed the same 60 from everyone, or more or less. So that's pretty wild, to be fair.
Yeah, I think I was gonna raise the same point. It's just the fact that it's found a footing with the right tech cards in it. I mean, it's got Luminion in it as well with the Ultra Balls, which is kind of really cute to, again, just play your game out, right? Which is really impressive to see. And I think it was championed a lot by that group who were playing that type of list as well. Is this the way to play Bolt going forward? No hand disruptions, stick with just do what you need to and let your opponent build their combos in their hands.
Well, how effective is disruption nowadays? Not very is the answer.
Great point. But sometimes if you can get ahead of the Iono from your opponents, you can, like, it's very often that Bolt could, if they float an energy, they can Iono someone to 4 and then maybe they don't Iono you back to 2, right? Yeah. I think that's the only reason to play Iono in the deck. Yeah. Sometimes you like walk away with a strong hand. It's not really like trying to actually stick the opponent on nothing. It's just make them not have like CC plus Iono back to you. And I think that's sometimes like I don't think it's wrong to play an Iono in the deck still. You just have to play a bit differently to try and weave it in.
I don't mind Iono.
Because I guess the reason I asked is because I did watch a bit of the final and it just felt like, I think game 1 was quite a telling of what I expected the matchup to generally to have gone, right?
Michael can't lose as long as random Pokemon things happen.
He just does what he wants, right?
I think Chip made a really good comment that he had a board of like 4 Confa and he was like, yep, he's just allowed to do this because he knows that Caleb has no hand disruption, so he can just wait on which attacker he wants to put down with full information after taking the full turn of all the selectings. And that can only happen because Bolt wasn't playing hand disruption in finals, but obviously, like, again, when you're facing Bolt in a day 1 situation, you probably have to still play around hand disruption. It's only exactly in this final where Michael was able to use that information to great effect.
It's a nice segue for us to talk about Xbox.
This is the other like intrigue. I think most interesting list of the top 8 is that Michael found again the right pocket of the format to pick Lost Box again. Very, very reminiscent of the NAIC winning list from Hedrick, with the quad stop, very, very item heavy, and then very light on both Pokemon and energy, really, with just your one-ofs of everything. Even going lighter than Hedrick, no like Iron Thorns in the list this time around, just has that Spiritomb as more of a catch-all tech that you can poffin out. But yeah, it seems like it was just the right tournament for it, with Drago sub 10% now. You can dodge. I think a few other pilots of Michael's 60 hit the Dragos and therefore couldn't progress much further into the tournaments. So you are still running that risk. To me, it feels very much like running a Snorlax right now, where it's like there's going to be those people that don't hit 2, and then if you're one of the people that hits 1 or none, it has the power to just push through a large portion of the format. Especially again for this weekend, where we were saying earlier, Alex and Rab, that Moonlight Shuriken is crazy right now. It's so unbelievably strong when people are just saying no to Manaphy because the other decks have the Colognes that they can search from Noctowl, or they have the Dustoirs that they can pop first anyway and then still snipe. Like, it feels like Manaphy was on the all-time low list, and that just allows you to, especially with just like Gates' early Shuriken is crazy right now. So yeah, I think Michael picked a really good spot to play the deck.
Yeah, I think it's simple. I mean, I was just looking at the data for Dortmund as well. I think what I said before Dortmund, I also thought it was actually in a bit of a sleeper spot. Of course, you kind of have to find a way to avoid the Dragos or find a way to play around Kyurem if you can, I guess, with like heavy backs and so on.
No chorus, maybe.
There is a world. But,
Pokestop? No. I've lost.
Game 2.
But yeah, first. So it's definitely intriguing. I mean, just generally the top 8 was actually quite varied, right?
Yeah, it was varied. If we run down,
cool.
there was a Palkia, 2 Lugia, 1 Terrapagos, 1 Drago, 1 Charizard, as well as the 2 finalists, the Bolt and the Lost Box there.
Yeah, I'd say as of the Lost Box, of course, it's just very reflective of the top 6 decks going into this day 2.
The popular decks all having some representation.
Apart from Drago, Dragapult, but
yeah, Dragapult was the drop off really. It had a torrid day 1 and 2. I think Jesse Spencer was the highest placing list in top 32. I think he's the only one in top 32 as well. So yeah, they had really poor day 1 to 2 conversion and just not great day 2s for those who were there, to be fair.
Yeah, not many Dragapults in the even in top 64. Not many at all. I don't know. It's around here or there. The Bennett Gardevoir, of course, still has its
Piper playing that
cult following.
Yeah, Henry Chow still championing Guardi in top 64 as well. There are a few standouts, but for me, it felt like quite a centralized meta. To be fair, It feels like people just stuck with stage stuff,
right?
Yeah,
and I don't see it changing too much from going into Lille personally either.
Do you think people will punt with box, or do you think Michael picked the right event to play it?
I think he picked the right event. I don't think people are gonna have. Obviously, a lot of people have had a lot of experience with Lost Box over the years. Years now? Is it years? It's years.
Yeah.
Like years.
So it's something people can re-pick back up, and obviously with the sort of gas that it has in terms of the way it plays and sort of multiple lost vacuums, which are kind of speeding through to the lost zones. It's obviously has a great engine, and it's still one of those energy accelerations which we laud about. It's
also good going first and second, which I think is important.
Yes.
Again, it's testament to what we've already mentioned. So it wouldn't surprise me that if people picked it up, but I don't think it will grow in sort of into like the day 1.
No, I also think that.
I agree. I don't think just because it had a good showing on this tournament, and also 7 made day 2, so it must have had quite a good conversion rate going into day 2. But I don't think players will all of a sudden find confidence in saying Lost Box is a great runner or a great pick for this tournament. I just think it was the right one for it. I think much like Charizard for myself, I don't think I'd feel confident going into a tournament with Lost Box. I think it's just way too much matchup dependent, like you said.
The worst thing for me to say is how I feel about the deck, in that you could just play Snorlax and you're doing the same roulette with a different deck.
Exactly.
And it's so much easier to win with Snorlax than it is to win with Lost Box.
It's so much easier to play. Exactly.
It's so easy to just win with Lax.
I feel like if the matchup roulette deck is Snorlax, right? I don't think there's a better deck to play matchup roulette with. If you're going into a tournament saying I'm just gonna get the right matchups each round, I don't think there's any better deck than Snorlax right now. I think his matchups are so polarizing.
Will we see a deck like Snorlax win a tournament this year?
I wouldn't be surprised if Pidgeot Control did, but I don't think Snorlax will win one this year.
I don't know. Would you have said no last season as well?
Well, it took down 2
and it took down 2, yeah.
No, I think there was genuine reasons why Snorlax could win an event last season. Just because of the popularity, was it actually that different now that I think about it?
No, so some musings.
I need to think about it, but I feel like it's harder to win now with Snorlax, just because there is a core contingent of Lugia players who are really good with Lugia that will just find you before the end of the tournament.
I think there are a lot of decks where, it doesn't give Snorlax much of a break. I think things like Raging Bolt, Regidrago, Charizard can get around things. Much less now.
Bro, you're licking your lips if you see a Charizard.
Yes, but they can sometimes play.
Go on.
It's depending on the list. They can.
Finish what they can play.
They can.
Ben's going back through his mind where he's got PTSD of someone playing like 4 outs.
Yeah, like Palpads, 2-2-row, Regilecky.
This is like just post EUIC, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's a relic of the past.
They can always kind of they can go back to that. It's not. mean, I'm not saying they would.
No, buddy. I don't think they can.
If I'm coming up against Charizard now, I'm feeling confident, sure, but yeah.
Okay, good. Right, I think that wraps up Louisville for us, and obviously we have now still 2 regionals in this format. We have Lille coming up this coming weekend, and also Gdansk at the start of November. So pretty quick succession, back to back. How much do you think how many players do you think would have decided their deck before seeing Louisville, and how many people are going to be changing decks entirely based on these results?
I don't think people will change.
No,
yeah.
I think.
I also think because it's all one-ofs in the top 8, it's like, and they're all decks you'd expect.
And as we mentioned, I think that day 2 meta is going to be pretty close to what that would be close to what I'd expect for day 1 of Lille. And then Gdansk might have a couple of funky changes, but just as people have a little bit more time if they wanted to prepare for that tournament instead. But Lille was literally a week afterwards, right? And then you've got another 2 weeks before Gdansk. I don't anticipate much of a change.
No, I mean, neither.
Perfect. Well, you heard it here first. Pick your favourite deck that you're rocking right now, and don't be shaken by any of these results.
Play for yourself and not the room.
Play for yourself, but also don't tie ever.
Play what you enjoy, but don't tie because it's a loss.
Gentlemen, anyone?
Any gentleman in the room?
Right, I am playing Lax, but do you want to do a gentleman's agreement?
Please.
You just announce it first. I am blocking you.
Snorlax should be like, if you can take more than 2 prizes, I'll give you the win. How's that?
Yeah. That's funny.
Genius.
I do have a Night Scratcher in deck.
So if there's not much freshening up from our next couple of regionals, we look a little further afield then towards Surging Sparks. We got the full English set revealed on the official channels, the Pokemon Card Gallery. You can look at all this stuff. I didn't want to go into like massive, huge depth for these guys, but I just want to see like one or two of your highlight cards from the set that you're looking forward to getting your hands on and playing with. Rab, do you have any that stand out to you?
Is it me first, is it?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I've done so much research. No,
well, if not, then Alex, you can start.
No. I'll go first. I mean,
go on.
The thing is with Surging Sparks to me, the first impressions I get is that there's no standout deck really that's come out of it. I don't think the EXs are groundbreaking. I don't think there'll be anything that'll kind of dominate the meta as soon as it comes out. But I think for me, the more obvious EX card or the most significant one is Ceruledge EX. I think plenty of decks coming out of Japan with this. It's a very 4-of deck, as I like to call them. 4, and then 25 energy or whatever it is.
I think the consistent lists play 19 energy.
19.
19 is the number a lot land on.
Just shy of 20.
Yeah, okay. So you need 15 in your discard pile for Abyssal Flames to deal 330, right?
Yes.
So having 19 or so allows you to prize some and also attach some, but obviously you also have Night Stretchers that can recover them in the very late game. And I think it's lots of fire energy typically, and then also jets, so that you can play energy switching cards rather than trainer switch cards in your list.
Other cards for me are obviously Rotom with Crushing Pulse, of course.
Yeah, what do you think about this one? Because I was debating with Jack about it, actually, whether this is like a fantastic controlling card. Obviously that's where the mind goes first, because it's discarding items and tools, but that lightning attack cost is what's making me think it could randomly splash into other stuff.
I think it's a fantastic one-of in Pidgeot Control. I think it's way better than Luxray, obviously.
Way better than Luxray?
Well, I don't think it gives up 2 prizes, which I think is really
that is true.
It's crucial.
Hello.
But also, of course, the energy cost is a bit difficult to pinpoint. I think obviously now with Luxray, if you take out Luxray,
maybe there's a
playing,
Ditto box of Luminous.
You're playing with Luminous, and you're also. I mean, we could see some funky stuff with Counter Game. Counter Game was going to be another card that I was going to pinpoint on here as well.
Yeah, I'm very close to saying Counter Game is the strongest card of this set, just for the things that we can use this with. I think this card is so... it was good when it first came out, and I think it's still just going to be very, very solid. We know that we can force ourselves behind in a lot of decks in different ways. So I think Countergain definitely has a place. And we know how good Pidgeot Control already is. So expanding their card pool to so many more attackers that can be more immediate is very scary to
me. You don't need to be so... If I'm thinking of like a control archetype, I'm thinking that you're not so much dependent on double turbo anymore with Countergain, of course, but there are obviously there are so many Pokemon that you still depend on for double colorless.
Yeah.
Say like Bouffalon or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's still Luminous Energy and then Countergain, of course. So that'll do you nicely. But yeah, I'm excited to see what people can do with Rotom. If not myself, obviously, see what I can cook up.
What I thought was interesting about this, obviously that lightning attack cost. I was thinking about what already plays lightning, and it's like Bolt and Miraidon both play that, and just the idea of just having a cheese turn against certain decks to buy you a bit of breathing space or force 2 prizes into play, like their Rotoms and their Fishes, could actually be like kind of wonky. I'm pretty sure it won't happen, but it just made me think it's so much value and it's so disruptive if they're wanting to hold pieces. And I feel like, Terrapagos decks hold Pokemon, which is a bit annoying, but if you play a Judge and then Crushing Pulse them, it's like, damn, they are in trouble with that play, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The only other Pokemon I think of significant, to me anyway, would be Pikachu EX and Azumarill. I think those are the only...
You've touched on everything. You've left down with nothing,
Have I left down with nothing?
And me?
Looking at Azumarill.
I did say 1 or 2, but go on, Rav. Your favourites.
You can have Palossand. Go on.
Well, Rav, talk about Pikachu first, because this is the poster boy of the set, right?
Alex, you can speak about Pikachu, or Joe.
No, you go for
No,
it.
no,
You've highlighted it, right?
No.
You can't say the card.
I need to know why you love it.
My cat.
You don't even know the attack cost, do you?
My cat is really climbing out the window.
I can't believe this.
Right, you go on.
Right, well, I'll talk about it then. Resolute Heart's the ability. When it has full hit points and would be KO'd, you go down to 10 hit points instead. So it's got that inbuilt like focus sash type effect that we've seen on trainers in the past, and that's a pretty solid effect. I think it's going to be frustrating for certain archetypes in the game, certainly. Think about Raging Bolt, that has that unlimited damage cap, boasts the fact that it can KO anything it needs to, and now you can't get through this freaking Pikachu card, which is kind of wild. But I wouldn't be doomsdaying over this ability either, because a lot of decks play Cologne, and a lot of decks have like Radiant Alakazam or Hawlucha, or obviously Dustoir can still pop into this and burst through it. So I think there's a lot of decks that will naturally play around this effect, but there will be matchups where Pikachu is just like the king and immediately like 4-2 prizes people, and you win off its ability immediately. Because its attack isn't too shabby either. For Grass, Lightning, Metal, you deal 300 and discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. Not knocking out everything, but you're getting through V-Stars, you're getting through basics even with Bravery Charms on, and there are ways you can try and augment that damage with Pikachu. We have the Gravity Mountain Stadium coming out in the set, the -30s Stage 2 Pokemon. I think they're kind of building with that in mind. That's why it's coming out in this set, so that Pikachu can push into those Stage 2s, but also there's like Kieran, there's even like Monkey Dory stuff, which is, I know, even more energy that you can add into your deck.
But
right? Zapdos, you can play 3 Pokemon Go Zapdos if you really wanted to. If you're playing Area Zero, the opportunities are endless. And what I think is really interesting about Pikachu, Alex, now that you mention the Zapdos, is just how much synergy this card has. Like, there's Miraidon EX that can help burst out lots of lightning chaps. There's Noctowl, which we know is crazy. There's Area Zero, obviously. There's the new Magneton coming out in the set that can force your opponent to take a prize, and then you can attach 3 basic energy from the discard pile to a lightning Pokemon, which is very, very powerful acceleration. We've seen this before on Milotic, it was way back in the day, and I think maybe another card in between that time as well. But it seems solid for not only Pikachu, but then you can play like Iron Hands in your deck and stuff like that. So that's probably going to be a pretty strong option where you can have this lightning toolbox effectively with that Magneton, then allowing you to like counter catch stuff and just piece together other combos. So there's a lot for Pikachu to pick from in terms of where the card will land and how it could be played. It does feel a little bit jittery, like between turns, because you are discarding 3 energy from this Pokemon. Like, you sometimes have to have like a Crystal and a Crispin turn or something like that. So there's going to be those clunky, awkward turns with Pikachu, and there might be random passing turns, but because of that ability, sometimes it doesn't matter that you're passing. Oh, another really good card actually with this is the Joltik. I think we've been waiting for Joltik to have a receiver of energy like this, because what's always terrible about those sorts of effects that power up a guy on your bench is that your opponent can just like laugh at you by bossing and taking all your energy and 2 prizes off the board. But with Pikachu's ability, you're inherently protecting yourself from that play. So 1 Joltik can get 2 Pikachu EXs 1 energy away from attacking, and that could be your entire that could be your prize map right there, just from manual attachments from the remainder of the game. So I think Pikachu. I'm racking my brains for this card for the best way to build it, but I'm convinced that there probably will be a deck that's going to be competitive with this card. There's just too many synergies for it to not work out.
What is this? Is this as the main Pokemon, not just?
I mean, if you're playing Magneton, it could be easily like 1 or 2 Pikachu and then other stuff. But I've been building around lists with like 3 Pikachu, for example. Yeah. As like I'm trying to smash with this as much as possible and then have a lower damage output option and hands basically. I think that could easily be a thing because it's a beat stick.
I think at the moment it evidently goes in Miraidon as a replacement for Mewtwo EX.
That's the minimum. That's the minimum.
Minimum we can see it in the format. But
you can't gust it, so your Area 0 is generally more safe and it has 1 retreat, which is amazing as well. So at minimum you can get one of these just for
fail safe.
I mean, it's similar to like how we've seen Cornerstone Ogerpon as a maybe option for Area 0 decks just because people can't gust and KO it. There's a similar argument to be made with Pika, so that's kind of interesting. Alex, any standout cards for you?
I mean, other than I don't actually like this set too much personally.
I also think it's an underpowered set, to be fair.
I don't see enough in it. We've spoken about Latias EX before, and I think there's going to be... This
is my argument
potentially
for this kind
a
of
meta
set, I think.
Being driven around it also, because it just enables so many sort of already basic Pokemon decks, right?
Mm-hmm. Its ability, your basic Pokemon have no retreat.
Yeah. Skyliner, ignore its attack. Actually, it's okay. 2 Psychic Color, Seon Blade, 200. The only other cool thing, I mean, you've already mentioned the Azumarill, which is I didn't realize it was just 1 Psychic if it has if you have a Terra Pokemon in play.
Yeah, Azumarill's busted.
Double Edge for 1 Psychic, 230. Seems kind of cool. I was literally just going through the list of Pokemon and looking for like unique like attackers, like just not necessarily to be in the meta or anything, but you've got a Skeledirge which is a fire Palkia, right? 60 plus.
Yes, it's Palkia V-Star on a 1 prize.
On a stage 2. Which
it is a stage 2. But also don't forget that there is the Metal EX Skeledirge where you can discard energy and buff that damage even more. So it's all here. It's finally here.
Yeah, we're giving you the tools.
Things are coming together.
I am doing so much damage.
We're giving you the tools. Build.
And then there's still another Pokemon which has an instant knockout effect. It knocks out itself as well, but Annihilate has an instant KO. Both active Pokemon are just knocked out from this.
I'm stunned by the cards you've read right now.
Honestly, I'm just looking at these really cool effects. I'm like, if only this was.
And I'm going into a Mimikyu, so there.
We're talking about counter game. Destined fight for 1 fighting.
Hello.
Let's go. Another stage 2.
This is the content people want.
This is the new checkmate.
I was trying to look for. I was looking for like cube cards, and then realized these things were overpowered.
Yeah,
I think there's been some interesting discussion on the Gastrodon. What do you guys think about Gastrodon's ability? Sticky bind. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, benched stage 2 Pokemon have no abilities. What do you think about this card, Rab?
Not very good. I don't think. I don't like it. I don't think it's. I think it's very easily counterable. It's interesting, but I think it's just one of those abilities which is a bit of bait. I think it's too easily counterable.
What do you think of it as an Archeops counter?
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't know.
Yes.
It's just 1 boss away from being useless.
That's still true. And Lugia does play 4 boss.
It does play a few.
I really think they went so passive with this card.
Better as a Gardevoir counter I think.
No, Gardevoir wants to self-damage itself for Monkey Dory anyway. That flings itself into the active every turn anyway.
Then yeah,
that's the problem. Like Pidgeot's comfortable in the active. Dustoir's able to be a free retreat mon if it's active. Charizard.
If you play just 4 of these, I get it, but
just 4. Yeah, that's it. You've got to play a 3/3 line, so you can't get bossed every turn. Genius.
The other like random cool things I kind of like the look of, just because it seems funny. The Meow Stick with a gusting ability. Make this card a Chill Teaser
beckoning tail,
which allows you to then once during your turn you can switch in an opponent's bench Pokemon with that spot. It's always like kind of cool to see these gusting effects on a Pokemon, right? That can be utilized. But again,
it takes up a substantial portion of your deck, but it is a means of gusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of cards. And then the last one, I think I've only looked at it because it's been discussed a couple of times with a couple of friends. The Sylveon EX looks kind of cool.
I can't put my finger on this card. Yeah, I've gone between this card, I have to find a way to make it work, and then there's been times when I'd be like, right, I'm ignoring this from now on.
I just... If you find a way to, so the psychic energy on that Angelite attack is probably the one that I don't like as much, right? But the water and lightning go into a field of the meta quite nicely. Greninja, water energies, something like Raikou for lightning energies.
We love lightning types.
So it starts to you can start to kind of formulate something there. I mean, maybe you have to utilize that Sparkling Crystal to get around.
You can also trumpet to Eevee, of course.
Eevee Glass Trumpet.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah.
Also, the Eevee's ability from this set can just evolve the first turn or the turn you play it as well. So
I think there's something there. There's something there, but it needs a lot of work.
So the attack that's really intriguing is its second attack, Angelite. Choosing 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, shuffle those Pokemon and all attached to your opponent's deck. If one of your other Pokemon used Angelite during your last turn, it can't be used. But essentially, this was Plea GX on an old Sylveon GX, which was a once per game effect, and that saw a lot of play. Obviously, Gardevoir GX was a really strong deck at the time, and there was also parallel in the formats. But we do still have Collapse Stadium, I suppose. So you can still force lots of threats off the board quickly. And not only that, you're threatening to do it again. Which is kind of interesting. The only other card that I can really think about in the format that we have right now is like Regigigas V-Star, that also has like a ton of conditions to try and do a similar thing. So this can definitely, again, create a checkmate board state where you're like, well, I've dealt with these 2 threats on this turn. I can give the opponent a turn of tempo to do whatever they want because I know that it's not going to be good because I just removed 2 really crucial Pokemon for them. And then in doing so, I can just run them off the board with whatever else.
Archeops back to wherever they came from.
Maybe this is the Gastrodon we needed all along.
Yeah, I know, yeah. This is the real Lugia counter.
Oh, that would be so... Can you imagine how tilted they'd get?
PGX Parallel City. That was gross.
Yeah, that was terrible. That made me stop playing Xerneas Break, that parallel, please. So upsetting.
Sylveon Zoroark.
I was going to say, the last thing I wanted to ask you guys is, with the ace specs that are in this set, would you have seen? Do you think we would have seen a lot of these actually? Because a lot of them actually have quite powerful effects. But if we didn't get the very powerful ones early on, like Prime Catcher, Unfair Stamps, and so on, do you think we would see a lot of play for like Miracle Headset or Scramble Switch or things?
Yeah, like that? I think we definitely see some of them. I think the biggest one for me was when I just highlighted, which was Precious Trolley. I think this definitely would have seen play in like Lost
Do you think?
Box. In like Lost Box, yeah. I think
I still in Lost Box you can't even search this card, bro. My issue with Trolley is that you still need to play a good amount of ball search cards anyway. Otherwise you're just like hard opting second and going like Arven this exactly. If I miss Arven I lose.
I think if no A specs existed before this set and this was the first set with A specs, I think Precious Trolley would have been great.
You think that would be the land? You think that would be the key one? Interesting.
Anything
overplaying just Poffins and
anything with Pokestop.
Different one.
Anything with Pokestop. This card would be great.
Trolley.
Miracle Headset to get back Horus Experiment instead.
I feel like I would play Headset over Trolley if this was the first set of A specs. That's a pretty interesting thought experiment though. Like I think Headset is super underpowered, but I think a control deck that has something like Regieleki as its like if we're going to go towards Rotom and other energy attacking options, a Miracle Headset is it's a Silene, right?
I think
not Silene. It's a Lusamine is what I'm trying to say.
I think
on an item, which is pretty powerful for exactly those sorts of decks. I also think Megaton Blow is interesting for control.
Yeah. It's just underpowered just because you mentioned it's because of these other ones that have already been released.
Yeah. I also personally love Megaton. Yeah, Megaton Blow is actually amazing. I feel like you'll be able to get impactful use of that card in almost every matchup, which is really cool. I think this is, again, one that we probably won't explore because Prime Catcher's just crazy. But I think Megaton Blower also is just, again, a really interesting card. And if, again, Control is another option for them, if they want to have an energy recovery thing, like Regieleki being more at the forefront, if we're going to have a Ditto box, this is your Snorlax answer. Sounds pretty good, right? It's like using Celebrations Yveltal every turn against the Lugia players and stuff, and then it can collateral, retreat tools, for example, or stadiums as well that can frustrate you. So I think that's actually a pretty good card that I need to keep a lookout for Control.
Yeah, I like Blow. I think it's a good card.
I think Amulet's terrible. Blender is like exactly for Ceruledge. I haven't thought about anything else that wants to play this unless you're playing the Veluza Crabominable deck.
Oh, yes.
I think Energy Search
now
Pro is abysmal, but maybe someone will try it with Goldengo and like LDF will make a video about it, but it sounds terrible. Scramble Switch, I can't think of... That's not a diss. I'm saying he's gonna make like £100 of revenue on Energy Search Pro. I'm telling you now, 100 smackers right on that. Scramble Switch. I feel like there should be more applications for this card. We tried it in Drago just because you're obviously Ogoponing everywhere, and that's kind of interesting. But again, Prime Catch is crazy. And then there's like random applications if again you want to play Trumpet and just have a new burst attacking option. Could be kind of interesting. Maybe it's a way to get like an Iron Hands out faster, something along those lines. I can't really think of many homes for Enriching Energy, although a Draw 4 effect does seem really, really appealing. But there's a lot of coloured energy attackers right now. So I don't see many homes for a one colourless attachment, to be honest.
Yeah, cheers for that run through, Joe.
That's my rundown.
No, I agree with everything you said.
I honestly, in our notes I said we would just do one or two highlight cards, but Rab started going through lots of cards, so I figured if we're going to at least talk about all of the ones he mentioned, we should do.
We've done it now.
We've strangled out our own content for next week.
I'm highlighting the new mouse holes because the artwork's just absolutely.
Oh yeah, what's your favourite artwork of the set, Alex?
I mean
you can do mouse hole. I must say, so when I went through the games, and when initially all these Pokemon were revealed, I've been a massive hater of Mousehold. But these two cards have actually brought me round to the Mousehold team.
What, and the Tandemaus?
The Tandemaus art I like as well. I think it's great. Yeah.
I think they're my favourite Pokemon from that gen.
Really? Yeah. See, I find that wild because when I first saw them, I was like, "This is lazy." But there's that one deck box where it's like the paper sketches of them, which I think is great.
I've got that one. Yeah, I think. You've got that one.
I think you have it. Yeah. And yeah, these two artworks, I'm kind of being won round by the Mouseholds. My favourite artwork is pretty simple. I like the Milotic EX. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I think you and Jack both give that a lot of love. There's actually some pretty cool ones, actually. Have you seen the Relor just looking like it's looking between his legs?
Relor is genius.
The cast form, I really like that art. I think that's really cool. Like a little cartoony kind of hand-drawn almost. It's a nice looking set. It's just
it is a very nice looking set. I'll give it that. A lot
of treats to be had.
Is this the illustration competition just for?
I think I might enter that this year.
It's if you want to keep your job, you've got to outperform this lot. That's the. They've cracked the whip. I love the Sphere as well from the set. That's one of the better ones.
Really Clobberpuss, look at him. I mean, he's just a great Pokemon, isn't he?
He's a treat, old Clobber. Doesn't get enough love, to be honest.
He doesn't.
No.
The Relor, unreal. Right, I think we can leave it there, just marvelling over these cards, because we could do that for hours.
Yeah.
So, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back next week and learning how Alex got on.
It's just me.
It's just you. You're flying the flag, mate. So good luck to you.
One's popping out a baby and one's
I know I might have a baby this time next week.
You could be a father next week. Oh my goodness, that's insane.
It's just hitting me now.
We wait with bated breath. I can't even say
it. With braided breath.
I'm really braided right now. Great news.
Don't worry, everyone. We'll have that live reporting link ready for you guys for Rab to share.
Good luck to you, Alex, and everyone else who's managed to listen all the way to the end, because I'm backing you.
See ya.